Before I move along to the next lesson, what I'm going to talk about here today is scale, because this tends to be a confusing element when it comes to drawing in CAD. Now, as you know, I've been drawing this project in metric in meters as my base point scale, and your particular project is in millimeters. So the nice thing about dealing with metric is that basically it's a base 10 system, which simply means from meters to decimeters to centimeters to millimeters, they're all factors of 10. So from meters to millimeters, it's a factor of 1,000. So at any time when I'm dealing with metric, it's very easy to convert to a different scale element or a measurement unit by using that factor. And in this particular case, the difference between meters and millimeters is a factor of 1,000. So I'm going to scale this drawing up 1,000. I've dimensioned just this one wall so you can see how it affects the actual drawing itself. Right now it's 3.52 meters, or in millimeters it's 3520.0. So that is your factor of 1,000. So let's go through this just to demonstrate how you'd work with this. And this is necessary only because some of the manufacturers are in metric, some are imperial, and this will hopefully help you understand this. So I'm going to increase this drawing by a scale factor of 1,000 to convert it from meters to millimeters. And I can do this at any time that I'm working with the drawing, and this measurement will change accordingly. So I'm going into the Modify Tools section, which scale appears, and this is the command we're going to be using. I'm selecting everything, so I clicked on scale. I created a window around everything. I press enter to end my selection. I'm going to click a base point, which is this corner. And for a factor, I'm going to type in 1,000 and then press enter. And you can see the drawing has become huge. But what's actually happened here? Well, look at my dimension. My dimension is tiny. Well, the value or the distance has changed by a factor of 1,000, but the dimension style has not. Because in this particular case, I'm not using annotation. I'm simply dimensioning right on the drawing. And you can see the number system has changed. Now it says 3520, which refers to millimeters, and that is correct. When we're not using annotation in dimension, and this is something that usually happens in a much later series of lessons, what I need to do is identify for dimension styles, I need to modify to replicate what it is or reflect what it is that I'm actually typing in. So there's all these different identities here that we can modify and change and identify how we actually present the number. So here I'm just going to put in a suffix of millimeters so everybody knows what it is. I don't want a display. Notice that the display of this is to 4 decimal places. In millimeters, I'm going to go to 0 decimal places, and you'll see how this menu now affects this number. And there we have our size. Now, the dimension itself is tiny because I'm not using annotation. So I'd actually have to change that factor as well. And I'm going to go into my standard dimension units, modify that as well, and increase this by a factor of 1,000 as well. So when I go into the fit tab here, I'll say multiply everything by a factor of 1,000 and select OK. Now, again, one of the reasons I'm demonstrating this is to show you how one change affects so many different things, and you have to be aware of those particular items. But I've now converted this drawing into millimeters, and now I can easily work with the project to reflect what you're working with in your project. So let me see what else I can do. I'm going to insert the kitchen, and I'm going to change the actual sink that's in here from one that I was drawn there to one that I will bring in from a different website. So I've quickly inserted the kitchen layout that I had previously, but like I mentioned, I didn't like the sink. So I'm going to go to my Kohler website. It's a very easy website to work with because they have so many CAD drawings. I'm going to pick a sink that's available for this particular project. I'll click on it, and in this particular menu, I'll go into specifications and download in the 2D plan view the DWG drawing. And it's downloaded, and I'll open that up. Once again, it's already in the 0 layer, perfect. So I want to edit and copy with base point. The base point I'm going to choose along the back of the sink here, the midpoint. And then make a window around the entire sink, press enter. So that's in memory right now. Go back to my drawing. And again, when we work with the 0 layer for selecting, I want to place it in a particular layer. In this case, I want to put it in my plumbing layer and edit, paste this block. Now, this is an imperial sink that's being inserted into a metric drawing. So again, scale becomes a factor, and that's why we really need to understand scale. And the difference here is that this particular sink, and I just clicked on my page here, and I'm going to select OK. Those are all the attributes that are assigned to it. This sink is a factor of 25.4, moving from imperial measurements to millimeters. So anytime you're inserting into your millimeter drawing any item, you have to factor up by 25.4. So I'll select scale, put a window around the entire object, press enter. I'm going to click anywhere because it doesn't matter here right now. I'm not going to place it. And then I type in 25.4 and press enter. And there's my sink to the appropriate scale. Great. Now I'm going to move it in position. So I'm going to select move, select the sink, press enter. Now I need to put a base point on this. So I'll select the midpoint along the back. I'm going to match it to the midpoint of this line. Now this line, there's a few lines that overlap. So I want to select mid between 2 points. And I'll pick the one end of the counter and the other end of the counter. So therefore I know it's in the right position. I will rotate. Now, the last thing I've been working with is the sink. So instead of selecting it again, especially if it's a complex drawing, all I need to do is type in P and enter. And P means previous. So previous is another way of manipulating your selection sets if you're doing it continuously. And it's easier when we have a complex object within a drawing with multiple lines and to pick the object. Just type in P and enter. And I don't want to pick anything else, so I press enter again. And I'm going to pick the base point right where these two intersect. And we're rotating this. And how much am I rotating? I'm rotating it 45 degrees. In which direction? Clockwise. So that's negative. So I type in negative 45 and press enter. And it's an undermount sink. So it's showing me the outline of the undermount and where everything is going to be. So I can leave the sink basically exactly where it is, and it'd be fine for my project. And I'm going to zoom back out. And there I have my drawing, and you can see it's now to the right scale. It's still importing imperial objects from Kohler because basically Kohler is an American website. It does have a Canadian entity to it, but everything is built in feet and inches, and in this case mostly inches, so that we need to understand that conversion factor. And now I can move forward from here.